that it might end up being like a terawatt per person.
Elon Musk just said that we might consume 1 terawatt hour of energy per person. If somehow this actually happens, this is fantastic news for Tesla stock investors. Just so you understand how big of a deal that is, the whole world currently only consumes 25,000 terawatt hours of energy per year. That means if one person consumed 1 terawatt hour of energy per year, we would have 25,000 people in the whole world only. If on top of electricity we include oil and gas, that number is a bit higher, but it's still ridiculously tiny. Now, Elon said might, but if his prediction turns out to be true, what do you think that will do to the demand of Tesla Megapacks, Tesla Powerwalls, etc.? That's a serious bombshell that Elon Musk dropped there. Now, he also dropped another sort of mini bombshell. It's a little bit like a bombshell. Let me break that down first, and then we're going to come back to this one.
Because of the way that the grid has been constructed to match peak demand, there is actually excess capacity if you run the plants sort of 24 hours a day. I'm not sure, it might be as much as a 2x gain, but it's at least 50 to 100% increase in total energy output if power plants are run 24/7 versus just matching the consumer demand. And obviously the reason for that is there hasn't been really, in most cases, a way to buffer energy. And what stationary battery packs like the Tesla Megapack enable is to buffer the energy. So you can essentially run the power plant at its max power output and fill up the battery pack and then use it as needed. So this effectively gives far greater output potential for existing electricity generation infrastructure.
One of the things there that Elon just said was sort of a bit of a bombshell, because he just explained basically how much demand there easily could be for Megapacks just to help increase the amount of electricity that we can produce basically and supply to consumers without adding new plants to generate electricity. During the investor day, Elon said that the demand for Megapacks is quasi-infinite, but he didn't really explain why that is. Well, now he sort of did, so let's dive into the numbers. There are a lot of caveats, and these numbers are going to be just to get you thinking. The world consumes about 25,000 terawatt hours of electricity per year. I will convert that to megawatt hours because megapacks are measured in megawatt hours. And Elon's saying that we can increase our total electricity supply by 50 to 100% just by adding megapacks to our grid right now is a bit of a bombshell. So if we take the total amount of electricity that we consume per year, we divide this number by 365 days in a year, and this is how much electricity we consume in the world per day. Then we take the number of megawatt hours in 1 megapack, which is 3.9. We divide the total electricity consumption by 3.9, and we get 17,803,301 megapacks that are needed to be installed if we follow these numbers. Now, there are a lot of caveats, and I'll go through some of these. Currently, this calculation assumes that 24 hours of electricity would be stored away. We can reduce that number by half, and let's say we only want 12 hours of electricity stored away, and that would still require 8.9 million megapacks. We need to remember that this calculation assumes that megapacks would basically double the total amount of electricity that consumers would be able to consume. You can cut that number in half if you like to, but I think when we will build out solar panels in a lot of different places, we will need a lot of megapacks. So I'm not going to cut the number in half just because of that alone, but you can do so if you like to. And then we just multiply by the price per megapack. Let's just round it up to $2 million exactly. This will change, of course, in the future, but this gives us a potential opportunity of $17 trillion. These would be millions, that's billions, and that's trillions. $17 trillion. Now, of course, there would be competition, and some countries would adapt megapacks more than other ones. There's a lot of caveats here, but do you think that Tesla could get some of this? Also, remember, once you build the megapacks, you need to maintain them, and they don't last forever. You need new ones eventually as well. That $17 trillion number assumes that we would want to have 12 hours of electricity stored away. Some people may say maybe we will only want to have 4 hours, for example. Some will say, well, if we have these storage systems, then maybe we actually will want a lot more than just 12 hours. So there are arguments to be made both ways. You can pick a different number here. If we rely a lot more, for example, on solar and wind, then we may certainly want to have a lot more than just 12 hours of electricity stored away, because while wind blows pretty much every single day, on some days it blows harder, and on some days, in the sun, well, sometimes we have clouds and the other days are better. So we may want to have a lot more electricity stored away than just 12 hours, especially before approaching winter. Anyway, these are just to get you thinking. You need to do your own calculations. The only prediction that I'm making here is that the demand for megapacks is going to be absolutely ridiculously insane. And we already know that the demand is extremely high for megapacks. If you want to get one, you will need to wait for about 2 years if you want to ship it to California. Also remember that right now we are still in a relatively high interest rate environment compared to the last decade. So if interest rates came down, do you think demand would also increase for these megapacks?
And we actually together got to do a little demonstration last summer. You'll remember we had the peak event in September of 22 here in California. And as a result of the integration with the already, I call it anyways economics, the power walls that people had purchased already in their garages across California, we delivered, well, Tesla delivered through our grid, 50 megawatts of supply in the peak hours of those peak days. And that's just a start. That was like something we thought together, and thanks to the Tesla's nimble approach and our ability to keep pace, we were able to deliver that last. We're continuing to do that now. In fact, last week, my power wall in my garage, you'll be happy to know, was tapped, and that was good news. We're supplying distributed storage to the grid.
If back, let's say in 2008, you seriously looked at the future of transportation and you asked yourself, what kind of fuel will we use to power our vehicles? The answer would have been, well, if battery costs keep coming down, which they have been coming down very predictably, if they keep coming down, the future is going to be electric. And guess what? They did keep coming down. Now, back in 2008, batteries were still insanely expensive, and you couldn't really have made a vehicle like a Model Y back then that everyone could afford, but today, you actually can. Recently, though, the batteries got a little bit more expensive because even GM, as well as many other legacy automakers, are all buying batteries, a lot of batteries, which puts pressure on the price to go up. But in the long term, we will still see a trend, I believe, downwards. Now, unfortunately, today is no longer 2008. The EV opportunity, though, is still around here, but I think where megapacks are today is sort of like where EVs were maybe a decade or more ago. It is painfully obvious at this point that we will be using megapacks and Powerwalls and things like that, but not many really realize that yet. And that creates a buying opportunity for a stock like, I don't know, Tesla stock. Keep in mind that even right now, it makes a lot of sense for all of these utility companies to actually buy megapacks. This is before battery costs go down even further. So what do you think is going to happen to the demand once batteries go down in price?
I think there's buffering that is needed, obviously, at the power plant level or sort of heavy industry utility level, which is the megapack. And then there's also energy buffering that is useful at the endpoint, at the consumer's home or the individual business. I think we basically need to tackle this problem. If I leave with one message, is that the magnitude of the energy problem that lies ahead is absolutely enormous. It's news for the utility industry. It's great news. People are going to use a lot of electricity, like a lot.
He likes the sound of that, Elon. We like that.
Replace the enormous problem is lying ahead with enormous demand for megapack is ahead.
Yeah, so this is for sure going to happen.
Not often Elon uses words like, yeah, for sure, this is going to happen. Well, this is one of these times that Elon Musk is that certain.
In order to satisfy the electricity need of a fully electric transport economy and electric heating, you've got to triple out. And that's just in America. I mean, places that are industrializing like India, I think it probably is a 10x output. So in fact, a friend of mine talked to me about like some of these sort of fundamental ratios or metrics that are interesting to think about. One of them is a total amount of energy per person. And you can include thermal energy and electrical energy, and how that has scaled over time is incredible. So, if you said like before the steam engine, you basically just had energy per person would be like, what can you burn with like firewood or a horse or an ox? So this is obviously not much. Now the energy, if you say total sort of human civilization created energy is gigantic compared to the past. And that number per person is going to increase, I think, dramatically over time. This friend of mine that I referred to thinks that we may end up at some point, well, if the trend continues, that it might end up being like a terawatt per person. And I'm not showing it, like terawatt per person is a lot, obviously.
That'd be a lot.
So a big asterisk around if trend continues. But energy per person over time, it looks like a wall at the Industrial Revolution. The same can be said for compute per person over time, the digital versus biological compute. These are really interesting metrics. So basically, what I'm saying is we need to tackle this from all angles. So that's Powerwall locally, some amount of local solar power. It just helps a little bit so that, one doesn't have to expand as many substations and build, as many transmission lines, which drive people crazy in like suburban neighborhoods.
If Elon and his friend are right and the trend does continue, what do you think that is going to do to energy demand in megapacks? It would, of course, skyrocket. Remember that $17 trillion opportunity from earlier? You would need to multiply that by thousands, many thousands of times. I am not going to do that because the numbers just get so bonkers, but it is nice to dream. What is painfully obvious, though, today, just like it was back in 2008, if you really thought about EVs, today it's painfully obvious that the demand for megapacks in the future is going to be ginormous. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview yet, watch this one first. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.